I'm Michael Popok, and you're watching the new Legal AF MTN YouTube channel. There's our logo. Take a moment, hit the subscribe button. That's a vote that counts. Go get other friends and family. Hit the subscribe button. It's not ego. It's that we're building a pro-democracy channel in collaboration with the Midas Touch Network so that your voice will be heard. Speaking of new voices being heard, former Fox News anchor, right-wing conservative podcaster, Geraldo Rivera, I assume, former friend and loyalist to Donald Trump, has just written a 570-word tweet posting endorsing Kamala Harris, claiming that his former friend and loyalist, Donald Trump, who he says lied to him during a discussion about a week after the election in 2020, has stabbed the Constitution in the back. I've always loved Geraldo Rivera, ever since he was Jerry Rivers on local television in New York. Of course, claim to fame, he started on local news, ended up doing investigative reporting, famously opened Al Capone's vault when people only had 5 channels of television to watch. And he went on The Five and anchored The Five on Fox News for a long, long time. And now he's on another ultra MAGA right-wing show on News Nation, but he can't take it anymore. He was lied to according to his own 570-word tweet. I didn't even know you could have 570-word tweets. He must have bought the blue badge or something. And he's come out and said, well, we all know that he was wrong to have defended Donald Trump through all of those other attacks on his ethics and his values and his morals. He defended Donald Trump during the Mueller investigation, claiming that there was no collusion. He was a defender, a enabler of Donald Trump, a protector of Donald Trump for most of 2016 to 2020, if not before. In fact, I would argue that if it wasn't for reporters and friends doing free PR for Donald Trump and running interference for him, he wouldn't have been the president of the United States. But better late than never, as they say. Finally, in the last 20 days before the election that matters the most, where our democracy hangs in the balance, where it's literally a life or death proposition to vote for Kamala Harris, now we have the bravery exhibited of Geraldo Rivera, who has come forward in his 570-word tweet. Now, why you waited so long, I have no idea. But welcome to the party. Welcome to the Saving Democracy Party, Geraldo. Let me read to you what he wrote, because buried in there are some very interesting things I want to talk about on this particular hot take. He starts with, I would have started with stabbing. He stabbed the Constitution in its back. He started with sore loser. With 3 weeks to go until Election Day, Donald J. Trump stands a reasonable chance of becoming the 47th president. Despite assassination attempts, impeachment, special counsels, felony convictions, and hundreds of millions in civil penalties, most polls show his race against Kamala Harris too close to call. The first time he ran for president in 2016, he was coming off the last season of Celebrity Apprentice. Like last season on that's how he should have started his presidency. Last season on the presidency. I had a front row seat as a finalist on that final season. Oh, that's right. I forgot that Geraldo Rivera was on Celebrity Apprentice. And marveled at his audacity with his checkered past to seek the highest office in the land. Then in a blink of the eye, he went from novice to formidable challenger. As president, he was a loyal friend to Geraldo Rivera, who allowed regular access. My resulting coverage gave him the benefit of most doubts. His presidency was underrated. See, he's still shilling for Donald Trump, even as he's endorsing Kamala Harris. This is the psychosis of the Trump cult. But I digress. He says, I stuck with him, deeply suspicious of constant efforts to undermine his administration. The last time President Trump and I spoke, listen to this date, Friday, November 13th, 2020. That was the last time we spoke? Okay, 8 or 9 days after the election, when he called me at home. It was 10 days after his narrow loss to Joe Biden. He was calling to get my take on the controversies surrounding the election. I asked him what would he do if the vote count remained the same against him. As I reported on Fox News that night, or the same morning, Friday the 13th. He told me he was a reasonable man and would do the right thing if that time came. So there's Geraldo Rivera reporting, I just had a conversation with Donald Trump. He called me personally. He assured me we have nothing to worry about. There'll be a peaceful transfer of power. Hooray! How'd that work out, Geraldo? From what you didn't know and what the Jan 6 committee and now Jack Smith, the special prosecutor, now know, and the American people now know, is that Donald Trump was going to do nothing of the sort. That he was plotting and planning since even before the election to argue that the election had been stolen, that he only lost because of fraud. They knew going in, as Bannon knew going in. And Bannon said before the election, as caught on tape, reported to the Department of Justice, that they knew that the weakness for the Democrats in their view, is that they voted in large numbers, but they voted by mail-in, absentee, drop box, and other votes that get counted second, as opposed to election day results that get election day voting that gets counted first. So that there'd be this gap where for a short period of time it looked like Donald Trump won, when in reality he lost, and they would try to exploit that. That was all hatched before, Geraldo, you had this phone call with Donald Trump. I mean, I don't mean to kick a man while he's making an endorsement, but there you go. President Trump embarked on an increasingly menacing campaign to discredit the 2020 election. He has coaxed and intimidated tens of millions into pretending he was reelected in 2020 and that the election was stolen. In furtherance of that big lie, on January 6, Trump incited and unleashed the violent attack on the center of democracy, the U.S. Capitol, for which he was impeached. As his followers trashed that sacred space, he was on the phone urging Vice President Mike Pence essentially to overturn the will of the American people. Is Geraldo Rivera like Rip Van Winkle? Did he just wake up? Did he just fall out of a mango tree? He's just realizing all of this now. Now's the time for maximum impact. He's going to come out with an endorsement. I mean, seriously? Okay. I guess he was waiting for Bruce Springsteen to finally make an endorsement. However, he says Pence refused to put Trump ahead of the Constitution. Trump stabbed the Constitution in the back. I agree with that. Former President Trump is a sore loser who cannot be trusted to honor the Constitution. That is why I'm voting for Kamala Harris to be our 47th president. Somebody wrote under that, welcome to the team, Geraldo. Now, why is it important? Or is it important? I posit here on this hot take. Well, first of all, there was no more MAGA enabler on network television at the time than Geraldo Rivera. He laid it out. He was on the last episode of The Apprentice and the first episode of Donald Trump in the White House. He had unlimited access to the guy. He knew from a phone call on November the 13th when he's supposed to be an investigative reporter. He knows what the Jan 6 committee has. He knows what's in the 165 pages that Jack Smith just released to the American people through Judge Chutkan. That Bannon was already conspiring with Donald Trump before the phone call he had on November the 13th, Friday the 13th, to never give up, to never relent, to never concede, to always argue that he had won the election off the election day vote counting, and then make the Democrats rip it out of his cold, alive hand. That was always the plot against America. Geraldo, you know that. I know you're 81 years old and you're on your last gig with Newsmax, but come on. You can read. You wrote this. 165 pages. Wait till you see what's in the new data dump that's coming to the American people in less than 48 hours. We have later this week the entire tractor trailer, an aircraft carrier worth of evidence against Donald Trump to support every line in the 165-page brief by the special counsel. And so I love the way Geraldo Rivera makes it about him. I was duped. He was my buddy. I was on the last episode of The Apprentice. Vote for Kamala Harris. He stabbed the Constitution in the back. I would have given you more credit and more honor had you done this a while ago. Or for Joe Biden, when Joe Biden was still running. But it's interesting. I mean, anybody that's MAGA, dyed-in-the-wool Trumper that now has turned against him, he just joins a long list. We have 200 members of the who are mainly Republicans of the national security and national intelligence community, all Republicans, all worked for other presidents, all served for other presidents, all took an oath to defend the Constitution, all voting for Kamala Harris and telling you that Donald Trump is a threat to democracy and a threat to our national security. We have, I don't know, a dozen former White House lawyers who worked for various Republican presidents who all say that Donald Trump is a threat to the rule of law and can't be trusted to protect the Constitution and is a threat to our democracy. We've got Judge Michael Luttig, who I just interviewed on the Midas Touch Network. We have clips here on Legal AF MTN as well, who said he's a lifelong Republican, never voted for anything but he's voting up and down the ballot, blew up and down the ballot from president down to dog catcher because the Republicans can't be trusted any longer. And Donald Trump is a threat to the rule of law and our constitutional republic. And now we've got Geraldo Rivera joining thousands of other Republicans for Kamala Harris. I'm less concerned about the polling. I'm more concerned that everybody who says they're going to vote for Kamala Harris and should vote for Kamala Harris votes for Kamala Harris. And if you do that, then we're not going to be upset. That's a word my mother would use. We're not going to be upset on November the 5th. We're going to be celebratory. We're going to be, think about it. Let's just project ourselves to the night of the 5th or the morning of the 6th when Madam President of the United States elect is announced and takes the stage to thunderous applause. That we finally have broken the glass ceiling, the one that Hillary Clinton so eloquently, as only she can, from her vantage point, from her empathy, say that she looks up at the glass ceiling that she put cracks in and can see Kamala Harris being sworn in as the first female president of the United States. That's not the compelling reason to vote for her. She's not playing the woman card. She's not playing the race card. She's not playing any of the cards. She's just playing, I'm competent. I have good policy. I'm not an insurrectionist. I will defend the United States Constitution. I will be an appropriate commander-in-chief that doesn't put our national security at risk. Cards. And that's enough for me, as it is for people here who are helping us build this community. We have a whole group of Midas Mighty here. We have a whole group of Legal AFers here. Then we have new people that have just found Legal AF on their own, and maybe this particular new channel in the last month, Legal AF MTN. Free subscribe right now. I met somebody recently in my neighborhood where I work in New York. We started to talk about, we had a mutual friend in common that owns a frame shop near me, and we were kibitzing about what we do for a living. I said, I've got this sort of media thing going on. She said, oh, really? What is it? I said, it's law and politics. And her eyes perked up, and I said, Legal AF. She said, oh my God, are you Michael Popok? And I said, I am. And that was really fun to meet. And she said, I don't know anything about Midas Touch and the Midas Touch content. I only found Legal AF, and I like Legal AF a lot. So I get it. There's all these different groups here, and we're building this community. That's why we're going to hit, by the time this goes up on our network, we're going to be like 210,000 subscribers in 30 days. I got to pinch myself. It's crazy. But it's all because of you. I'm doing my part as the chief curator on this channel, but you're here, you're engaged, you're on our community page, you're on our video page, our shorts page, you're on all our playlists, you're there for it, you're here for it. Court Accountability Action and that great investigative group that's now with Legal AF, we're with you. We like Dina Dahl and Unprecedented talking about the United States Supreme Court. We like Karen Freeman Agnifilo over there with you. And we appreciate you. Can't tell you how much. But when you meet me on the street, you'll know how much I care and how much I love having built this with the brothers and having it available to you. Legal AF MTN, here's your chance again. Free subscribe. Until my next report, I'm Michael Popok. In collaboration with the Midas Touch Network, we just launched the Legal AF YouTube channel. Help us build this pro-democracy channel where I'll be curating the top stories at the intersection of law and politics. Go to YouTube now and free subscribe at Legal AF MTN. That's at Legal AF MTN.